Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new, my name is Katie, and on this channel I talk all things foster, adoption, and just mom life. If you enjoy this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and also don't forget to hit the notification bell below. That way you'll get notified every time I upload new content. So we completed all the paperwork, we endured all of the poking and prodding into our personal lives, and we completed all of our classes. Now the only thing left to do was to sit and wait and meet the kiddo who was going to make me a mom and make my husband a dad. So I'm sitting there, and I think I was in my dining room, and all of a sudden I hear my phone ring. Okay, go check my phone. Who could it be? It's the recruiter. Oh my goodness, what do I do? What is she going to say? Is this about a kid? Is this about something else? Is there more paperwork? Did we miss something? What is it? So answer the phone, and she tells me all about this little girl who needs a home. And, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, is this the little girl who's going to make me a mom? Is this the little girl who's going to make us a family? How long is she going to be here? What is she like? When will we meet her? So I ask, as many questions as I can come up with in my totally frazzled state of mind. Get off the phone with the recruiter and call John. So I get him on the phone call. I'm obviously very excited and also very, very scared, because if we say yes, this means that a kid is going to be moving into our house and I'm going to be responsible for them, having absolutely no experience really with kids. I mean, yes, we did training, we did this, we did that, but any real life experience with kids, none. So we decide that we're going to say yes because, this was the whole point of this process, was to say yes to whatever kids God put into our life. So I called back the recruiter and said yes. Well, I guess God had different plans because that girl found another home somewhere else. So when we found this out, there was a little bit of disappointment, but I was also relieved as well, because I was scared. I was scared of what it would be like to have a kiddo move in. So another day, another call, another yes from us, another no from God. But this time it felt different. This time I didn't feel as much relief. I felt more impatience and frustration. I'd been, being told for months that there was such a need for foster families. There was such a need for foster families. So many kids need a place to go. And then here we are, 2 calls, 2 yeses, and no kid. Looking back on it now, I realize how incredibly misguided that whole notion was. It wasn't about me or my husband. It was about the kids. And we knew that back then, but there was still this desire to have a kiddo in our home that sometimes kind of overshadowed the real reason we were doing it, which was to, help kids that had nowhere else to go and to share with them the love that God shared with us. So, like I said, another day, another call. We said yes again. God said no. So, I'm starting to feel like, God, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking so long? I thought this is what you wanted us to do. Is this what you wanted us to do? Did we read these signs the wrong way? Did you want us to start a family some other way? Just a lot of doubt. So another couple of days pass and I get another phone call from the recruiter again. This time it was different though. So this kiddo that she called about, this little girl had a lot of behaviors. This little girl had a lot of trauma. This little girl had been removed from 2 previous foster homes. One who had been fostering for, almost 10 years, and the other who was a family member. And they couldn't handle this little girl. So here I am thinking to myself, like, no, this can't be the girl. Like, if a seasoned foster parent can't do it and a family member can't do it, like, how am I supposed to do it? Like, I have no experience. I don't know this kid at all. Like, this can't be the kid. But, talk to John. All right. She was put in front of us. I'm not going to turn somebody away. We'll say yes. Probably won't pan out like the last 2 didn't either. Well, not what God intended, because that was the girl that it was going to pan out with. So we start talking details with the recruiter about how we're going to go about meeting this little girl. So I remember that day as we were getting ready to leave, I, tried on an outfit, took that outfit off, tried on another outfit, took that outfit off. Put my hair up, took it down. Put it up again, took it down again. Put my makeup on, took some off. Put some more on, put it off. Because I felt like I needed to make this perfect first impression, because what if this was the kid that was going to make me a mom? What if this was the kid that was going to change my life? You know, she had been through so much. What if she met me and she didn't like me, or I didn't like her, or she thought I was, I don't know, crazy, or she didn't like how my hair was done, or I wore my makeup like her mom did and it made her upset. Like a million thoughts racing through my mind. So finally, I realize like, hey, this is not going to do anything. I have to just go. We have, to be there in a couple minutes. So I climb into the passenger seat of my husband's car, and we had bought her this little stuffed unicorn. So I am sitting in the passenger seat, literally clenching on to this unicorn for dear life. I don't know why, but for whatever reason in my head, that was the only thing that like I could focus on. I felt like if I loosened my grip on that unicorn even a little bit, I would lose all of my nerves and probably try to jump out of the moving car, because I was so nervous about meeting this little girl. And I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what the place was going to be like, because at that point, she was in a group home. I had no idea, what everyone was going to think of me or my husband. I had never met a social worker before. I had, this was all totally, totally new to me. Luckily for me, my husband is a lot more calm and collected than I am in a lot of situations. So he definitely, reminded me to breathe a little bit. So sitting there clenching this little unicorn, we pull into the parking lot, and I realize like, hey, like it's time. You have to just do it. You can't, sit here and run away. So we get out of the car and we walk into this, kind of sad, depressing, unimpressive building. I mean, it was fine, but it felt more like office space than like a home. We got, guided down this hallway into a waiting room. And I remember thinking how odd it seemed to see all of these. Sorry about that, guys. The kiddos just came up and needed help with something. One of the tough parts about trying to record videos when the kiddos are home. If they need something, video gets paused and I have to come back to it later. So, where was I? We were sitting in this waiting room, and I'm thinking to myself how weird it is that there's all these, happy, positive posters all over the walls when this building just has such a sad feeling to it. Still clutching on to that unicorn. Well, technically the bag the unicorn was in now, because we were going to give it to this little girl when we saw her, and we wanted it to be in something that she could open. So we're sitting there, and the social worker walks in and guides us into this room that we're going to be actually meeting her in. And we are sitting at a pair of chairs across from this just pretty average old couch. And the social worker, tells us she's going to go and get this little girl. So they walk in together, and this little girl is the cutest, petitest little thing I have ever seen. She is, practically hiding behind her social worker, because as scared as I was, I'm sure she was about a million times more scared. I am a full-grown 29 or 30-year-old at this point, and she is 6. So I can only imagine what was going through her mind as far as what she was feeling about meeting us. So, fast forward a little bit, she comes and sits down on the couch across from us, and we give her this little bag, and she pulls out the unicorn, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of a smile kind of starts to creep across her face. Not totally comfortable, but her body starts to loosen a little bit, and she looks like she's feeling us out. Like, okay, like these people seem like they're okay. Like, doesn't seem like this is gonna be bad. Like maybe I'm okay. So without even missing a beat, my husband John just plops himself out of his seat and right onto the floor of this totally random conference room, and pulls out a, I don't know, sticker activity book that we brought with us. that basically let you put like eyes and mouths and noses and hair and jewelry and stuff onto little princess faces. And just, like it's no big deal. Like I'm a full grown 30-year-old man sitting on a floor playing sticker time. Totally fine. And, he starts putting eyes where the mouths go and mouths where the ears go and whatever. And this little girl thought it was hysterical. And, she's like, okay, like this seems like it could be a fun thing to get in on. Like, let me see if I maybe move down to the floor and try to join this guy on his quest to make the most perfect Picasso princess. So at that point, I'm, sitting in this chair. John and this little girl are sitting on the floor, having a nice little time, hanging out. And I have no idea what to do. So I kind of scoot off with the social worker and the clinician to kind of talk details about transition, to talk about when we can do another visit, if we can do an overnight before she moves in, stuff like that. But obviously that conversation ended at some point, and I had to put on my big girl pants and go and actually talk to the little girl that was going to be living with us. So, the adoption worker or the social worker and the clinician leave, and I honestly could not tell you what happened over the next 10 or 15 minutes. I remember talking to them, and then the next thing I really have any sort of clear image of was my husband and I sitting on the couch and playing music on our phones while this little girl danced around the room. Specifically, I remember the song Sorry Not Sorry coming on, and this little girl just literally coming to life, totally transforming from that scared, frail, just tiny little thing that walked into that room to this strong, sassy, confident little girl. All the like all of it, like just whatever. And that's the first moment that I realized that this whole thing wasn't about me. It wasn't about how I felt. It was about that little girl. It was about what she had been through. It was about how she was feeling. It was about giving her a place that she could be that little girl that was dancing around the room instead of the little girl who walked into that room being afraid of her own shadow. Sorry. So that's the first time in a long time that I remember really being at peace and feeling like, oh, yep, nope, this is what God wanted. This is the plan for us. I didn't know how long I was going to be this little girl's mom. I didn't know how much pain she would come with. I didn't know all of the tough times we would endure together. I didn't know all the joy she would bring. I didn't know who she would turn into. I didn't know anything. All I knew was that in that moment, that was exactly where God needed me to be. And that's exactly where I needed to be. And I just needed to let go like she was and just live in that moment and follow whatever path God had in front of us. And that day was the day that I met my daughter. And in fact, that day is the day I met my daughter that I am in the current process of adopting and who will be part of my family forever, in my home maybe not forever until she's 18. But that was it. That was what changed everything. That moment changed my life for forever. But yeah, there's really no words to describe what it's like, but I can't imagine my life without her in it. And I look back now and I can't even imagine being so afraid to interact with her, because we've become so close that it's just so strange to think about not being that close at one point in our lives. But if you want to keep hearing stories about my journey as a foster adoptive mom, go ahead and make sure you subscribe. And I will also put a playlist up as well that will link to all of the other videos that are about our adoption and fostering story. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.